Hello world, welcome to Inflicting Opinions, where we look at video game-y things and I share my dumb rambling thoughts. So loot boxes in the news again today. There's some stupid committee from the British government making some long-ass report about immersive and addictive technologies. The big thing is though that they think that paid loot boxes should be regulated under gambling law. I'm sure most of you are saying, well, no shit. I don't know of very many people that don't believe that loot boxes aren't actually gambling. And I get that some countries have like worthless trash laws and garbage definitions on what is gambling, but we just had the FTC loot box workshop as well, which I don't even know why that happened, because in the United States there are states that have very clear definitions on controlled gaming that loot boxes could absolutely fit under. I mean, they are essentially slot machines. Really, what is the difference between a loot box and a slot machine? They both have reward tiers, and not just reward tiers. They're weighted reward tiers, where the top reward is, of course, the best, the biggest, and the least common, and the lowest one is the one that nobody wants. The biggest difference there is that in slot machines, the lowest reward tier is nothing, and in loot boxes, the lowest reward tier is some rubbish. I know I've seen people try to make the claim that because you always win something, loot boxes aren't gambling. That is dumb. I'm not sure where they live in, what country they are living in that has these garbage-ass laws. But in California and Nevada, always winning something or just winning isn't part of the legal definition of controlled gaming at all. I know the California definition doesn't even have the words winning, losing in their definition anywhere. They're not even very lengthy definitions. Well, the Nevada ones they have a lot of parts to it. But no, always winning something, not part of the legal definition. And when you think about it, don't you think that the casino gaming industry would be salivating all over themselves if they could just have slot machines give you a penny, or the blackjack table always give you a penny, and then they could say, oh, it's totally not gambling. Well, I'm pretty sure they would have done that decades ago. So no, that is a stupid argument. Anyway, continuing on, the simulators between loot boxes and slot machines. The player interaction, basically the same. You click or tap the screen to start the process going. That's not really any different. I mean, I know some of the older slot machines, you pull a handle. I don't think you do that anymore. I'm pretty sure it's just you click or tap the screen nowadays because, welcome to the world of technology. After that, you have the anticipation phase. This is totally unnecessary, but both of them have it. Not all loot boxes, I guess, have an anticipation phase. It's really just the artificially extended, drawn out reveal of the rewards. You see this in loot boxes. You have like some stupid fancy graphic, like a card spinning up or a crate opening on the ground, whatever, something dumb like that happening just to draw out the reveal of the rewards. And obviously casinos, the slot machines always do that too. So that's the same. That really doesn't change for the most part. And then you have the reward phase, which is incredibly flashy, exciting, lights and sound, big thing. And the only real difference here is that the lowest reward tier for a slot machine is nothing, so there wouldn't be a winning screen. But in both of them, I know loot boxes, they've gotten much more flashy and exciting. It's really just to encourage you to keep gambling. It's the same thing in both of those cases. So loot boxes are just a type of slot machine. Whoop-de-doo-dah. Just regulated as gambling and let's be done with it. Actually, for the winning, that's another thing I've seen people say, well, you can't win money or cash out, so it's clearly not gambling. Well, no, again, and in Nevada, they say, what is it? You play for, it's an electronic device or machine for money, property, check, credit, or any representative of value. That's part of the legal definition. Any representative of value. That's pretty damn broad. And that could include almost anything. And California is where quite a few of these companies have a base in. Again, their part of their legal definition for a controlled game is you are playing for currency, check, credit, or any other thing of value that is not prohibited by law. You can't play poker for a bag of cocaine because cocaine is illegal. That's really what it says. But any other thing of value, that's really, really broad. That could be almost anything. Saying that you always win something and that you can't cash out doesn't mean it's not gambling. Maybe in the United Kingdom or in the British government has some stupid money has to change hands kind of bullshit law. That's what I'm getting from the comments. I haven't read their laws and I'm not going to. There's actually another part of the legal definition of controlled gaming in both Nevada and in California. It's pretty much almost exactly the same word for word in both areas when it talks about what is not considered gambling. If you are playing poker with your buddies, even if it's for real money, as long as no one is making money as a non-player entity, it is not considered gambling. And obviously, when you have loot boxes, someone is definitely making money as a non-player entity. So that is not a way to exclude loot boxes from being gambling. It does not work. And incidentally, I think that's why the card games are not considered gambling. The companies sell card packs. They do not make money from the actual gameplay, from the tournaments. They don't make money from the tournaments. They're not making money from playing the game. And that is my guess. That is why loot boxes or why card games are not considered gambling, because they're selling you cards. They're not selling you a game. They're not making money from a game as a non-player entity. So they would be completely excluded from being considered gambling. Something else that I believe is worthy of discussion, I don't think I've seen anyone really talking about this, but the motivations of the corporate side of the video game industry on why they are fighting so damn hard to not have loot boxes be considered gambling. And when you think about who the worst offenders are of loot boxes, well, it's the biggest companies, the ones that have the most money, the ones that can actually afford to hire a legal team exclusively for looking into who has what gambling laws, the ones that can afford to hire programmers just to have regional blocks between places that don't allow gambling. They wouldn't really be hurt by having loot boxes regulated as gambling. I mean, the casino gaming industry isn't going anywhere. It's thriving and doing totally fine. So, I mean, being regulated has done absolutely nothing to kill the casino gaming industry and would do absolutely nothing to kill the video game industry either. I mean, obviously, they probably wouldn't want to spend the money, but it's not like they're getting taxed anyway. So, they have plenty of extra money that they're not paying in taxes to, pay these lawyers. And in fact, that would even be a way to have a new service show up, especially for like the indie developers on the mobile side of things. They could just have a company that takes care of all that bullshit for you, and you could still have your loot boxes in your game as gambling, and then you have a country or like one big company that takes care of all that bullshit for like a whole bunch of the smaller indie companies. So in fact, it's actually just a new business opportunity to have loot boxes actually being regulated as gambling. That wouldn't be the big reason why the video game industry would not want loot boxes regulated as gambling. The biggest reason would be that you can't sell gambling to a child, but you can absolutely sell a loot box to a child as we are now. I hope that's going to change in the future. What the video game industry is doing isn't anything we haven't seen before. Jewel is getting crapped on right now for basically targeting children in their product. What they had these colorful, fun ads with young people. They had the candy-flavored e-cigarettes. And then there was all these articles about how there's this massive increase in children vaping. How like there's people with all kinds of health issues. But what Jewel is doing is they're targeting young people. They don't have very good decision-making skills. That part of their brain is not even close to being developed yet. And you have, basically, you're creating a lifelong customer. They get addicted to the product, and then they keep using it for decades. The tobacco industry, the classic tobacco industry, did the same thing. They targeted children and young people, and they had these addicts young, and then they had lifelong customers. And it takes decades, again, to get any kind of health issues. Sadly, the tobacco industry still has Hollywood pimping out their products. I mean, tobacco is still heavily glamorized in media, in video games, and in movies and TV shows. I mean, you never see like the grizzled soldier with a cigar in his mouth huffing and puffing after trying to run a block down the street, which is probably what would really happen in real life. No, they glamorize this again so they can have young people and children getting addicted to their products when they're young, and then they have these long-term customers. The credit card industry does the same thing, or at least they used to. I can't imagine it's changed any. When you're 18, again, your brain is not fully developed when you're 18. The part that controls decision-making skills, not developed yet. And of course, I'm pretty sure we've all done dumb shit when we're young and dumb. That just kind of goes with the territory. And that's exactly what the credit card companies are banking on. You have like this 18-year-old that's getting their first credit card with ridiculously high interest rates, and racking up a bunch of debt. And then, if they can get someone that has a decade's worth of debt, that's great because you have the high interest rate and these companies are making all this sexy interest dollars. Someone who's just filed for bankruptcy, you can only file every 7 or 8 years, once every 7 or 8 years. So someone who's just successfully filed for bankruptcy, they're going to get a shitload of credit card and auto loans because the companies know that they have to pay this off. If they don't pay it off, well, the companies can take those people to court and have a judge garnish their wages, so they will get that money. It's nothing new. Corporations prey upon customers all the time, and the video game industry, of course they want loot boxes to be sold to children. They can create people as gamblers when they're young, and they would have like these long-term customers, especially when we're talking about the rise of games as a service. These are games that are mostly supported by loot boxes that are supposed to have like a lifespan of 10 plus years. Can you imagine having a child getting addicted to loot boxes and gambling, and you have this long-term customer? Or even the 2K sports games, those things come out every single year. They all have a ton of loot boxes in them, and gambling, pretty blatant gambling, judging by the what was it for basketball? It was hard to tell in the commercial because I didn't really see any gameplay. It was all about the casino aspect. But you get someone who's young. This is a game that's for 3 years old and up, and E for everyone. You get a child addicted to gambling when they're young, you're going to have someone who's buying those sports games every single year and dumping money into all these loot boxes and the gambling, like real money into all of this gambling. You're going to have someone who's buying this shit like for decades. It's just what corporations do. Like, this is the corporate aspect of these companies. And things don't change until the government steps in and starts sticking their nose into everyone's business. I'm not really sure why it hasn't happened yet. It seems like the governments are kind of worthless, really, at least in the United States and pretty much the rest of the world, not Belgium, sort of. Although this is the issue with loot boxes isn't something new. It's been going on for years now. It's just getting to a really horrific point. But you also have the researchers. The one gentleman, the British researcher, I believe his research was talked about before, but he was also one of the speakers on the FTC's Lootbox Workshop panel. He's actually the first speaker in the second video. He's the one that made the correlation between loot boxes and problem gambling, and he basically said that if we don't do anything about loot boxes now, we're looking at seeing these young people growing up into having gambling problems when they're older. And interesting enough that there's a gentleman from the casino gaming industry. His organization is an advocate for those who have gambling problems. He pretty much believes the exact same things that this other researcher talked about. And, that we are probably going to look at a future where all these young people are going to grow up into gambling addicts. And we're going to have a lot more people with gambling issues. And I don't see people really talking about that very much. Not the media, certainly, which is just sad. It's not really hard to draw these conclusions. It's not hard to look at what the other corporations have been doing for decades and see how the video game industry is just doing the same shit that all these other corporations are doing. The sooner the government regulates loot boxes, the better. And the really simple solution is it's just gambling. Loot boxes are gambling. I don't have a problem with gambling existing. I just have a huge problem with it being unregulated because of the problems we're seeing right now.